Welcome to the Coop Tank. I'm your host, Steve Cooper. Not coming from SuiteRecording today. I'm coming to you from my condo because my producer, Joe Gangemi, took his dad to the Phillies game. But if you need a podcast and if you want nice production, you have to check out SuiteRecording. Their website is Suite, S-U-I-T-E, recording.com. They'll do your podcast. They'll do an audio book. They'll do YouTube videos. They'll even shoot on location. So check them out. Email them at hello@suite, S-U-I-T-E, recording.com. Anyway, it's an all-female panel, and I always start this show off when I have an all-female panel. I do this because of my mom. My mom, who was called Ma Coop in my neighborhood, she graduated University of Temple in 1952, and she was the only woman in her marketing classes. And in fact, her junior year, she was already interviewing with Campbell Soup. So she got out, and she was a trailblazer. And I love women business owners because I think of them as business owners, because I never thought it was my mom as a woman business owner. You thought it was your mom who was well, she wasn't a business owner, but worked for a business. And we have three dynamic women today who are just dynamic business people. And first, from Angela Vendetti Consulting, it's Angela Vendetti. How you doing, Angela?
Hi, Steve. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. And from Ignite Business Partners, Jo Colontonio.
Hi, Steve. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
And then from KLA Marketing Associates, which has got a lot of other stuff going on, we have Kimberly Rice. How you doing, Kimberly?
I'm well, thank you, Steve. Nice to be here.
So, Angela, tell us a little more about Angela Vendetti Consulting.
Sure. So I am a restaurant consultant and coach. Did you know that 60% of restaurants will fail in their first year, and it's 80% by year 5? So I don't know about you, but I love independent restaurants. So my mission in my business is to help independent restaurateurs skip the learning curve and beat the odds.
And how about Jo? Tell us a little about Ignite Business Partners.
Ignite Business Partners, we've helped probably over 2,000 companies at this point improve the performance of their leaders and their teams and the whole cross-cultural organization. We do that through executive coaching, corporate education, and business strategy consulting.
And how about you, Kimberly? KLA. I love that name. KLA. It just sounds good. Marketing Associates.
KLA, we are a professional services business growth agency wherein we teach, empower, mobilize, and help professional services providers to build, grow, and sustain prosperous businesses.
You know, I'm going to stay with you, Kimberly. How did you get to where you are? Because, you know, I've talked to you before, but you have a pretty cool story. How did you end up where you are in this day?
Let me just ask you, do you mean physically or figuratively in the career? Because I am not from New Jersey. I am not from the Northeast. I'm from the South. So you can hear that accent. It's always a point of conversation.
Mix it all up in a nutshell, because that's important.
So literally, what would now today be characterized as a call center. I took a call from a guy who was sweet on my accent, and we started a long distance relationship, and that's how I got to New Jersey. That's the nut of that.
I love how you edited that story, Kimberly.
So I was here for 8 months or so. Dropped the guy, kept the position that I had taken, landed up and down Market Street. Worked for corporate law firms for about 20 years, handling, like I said, everything from strategic planning, business growth management, corporate communications, training, learning, development, any of those skill sets and those business development skills that help lawyers and other professional services providers know how to think and behave as business generators, not as employees, because there is nowhere in their academic background, nor oftentimes in their in-house training. They don't get trained, but yet they're held accountable for the client attraction process.
Okay. How about you, Angela? I think you used to own a restaurant, but how did you end up where you are?
Well, I graduated from Drexel in 1999. And at the time, I did the 3 co-ops, and I was working for a multinational in the technology sector. And I got laid off twice in 2 years. So I decided to open a coffee shop. I was helping a friend with a business plan, and 2 weeks later, I got laid off again. And so I thought, I don't really have any comfort working for other people at this point. I think I'm suited to work on my own and work for myself. So that's what we did. It took us almost 2 years to open. We changed a location from an apartment into a commercial space serving food. So there were a lot of hurdles there. And we ended up opening 5 locations over a 12-year period. We did office catering, and wholesale baked goods and sandwiches to other cafes. And I sold the business back in 2015. And I sat back and thought about what I wanted to do next. And I was like, there were just so many hurdles. And like I said, the statistics are so grim with success in the restaurant industry that I really thought that I should share the lessons that I learned the hard way with everyone else so that I can maybe help them skip that learning curve and beat the odds.
Hey, how about you, Joe?
So my career path was not as straight as Angela's. Initially, after I finished up my education, I started a marketing company. And for the first 15 years of my career, we did promotional marketing and corporate events. And then around 15 years in, I found myself building these close relationships with the individuals at the organization. I like to say that in the beginning, the first 15 years of my career, I was helping people look good on the outside, right? With the branding, the promotions, the marketing. And then all of a sudden, this shift happened and conversations became deeper and challenges became louder. And the second half of my career, I transitioned into working with those leaders and those organizations to help them to look and feel better and operate better on the inside so that they can improve performance on the outside. So little bit of a shift, but I guess I realized that you can have at that time, you can have the best marketing strategies in the world. And I'm sure Angela and Kimberly, having done marketing in their careers within their lanes, would agree that you can have the best strategy in the world, but if you don't have the people to execute the strategy, you're not going to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. So, people, an organization's most valuable asset is not listed on their bank statement, not their
balance sheet.
Not listed on their balance sheet, but yet without an ineffective team, the best laid plans in the world cannot be effectively implemented and executed. So kind of learned that backwards. I probably should have fixed the company on the inside first, then done the outside work. But I figured it out. I got my mojo going now.
Okay, good. And yeah, Kimberly, this is on YouTube. So yes, it was. So of course, I need my face to be shown. I'm an egotist. So when this airs, it's going to be April. And that's really crazy because this year has been flying by, and because you all work for yourselves, have you set goals? Like what's a goal you've set this year? Because I suck at goals. I'll write a little list down what I got to do the next day. But that's all. I've always swung by the seat of my pants, and I've always landed nicely. But Joe, have you set goals for this year? And what's one of your biggest goals you want to accomplish?
So we're in the process of leveraging. I have my team, my bank of employees and coaches and trainers. We would like to be in at least 2 more. We're in 3 universities right now with our Ignite Coaching Institute. And we'd like to be in 5 by the end of 2024.
Okay. How about you, Angela?
So this is a great question. I help my clients put together performance. So whether it's to get financing or just to set goals, right? To reach financial goals. And then we, put a project plan together and we start working on it to execute it. Just like understanding the break even is so important. And then understanding your personal income goal. Like these are the things that I work on with my client, but I've never done it for myself until this year. So I actually put together the financial pro forma, sort of plugged in all of the knowns and, set my financial goals for the year. And, it's just really helpful to be able to do that. One of the things that I started doing last year was teaching at Drexel University. So I teach through the School of Entrepreneurship. And I also consider myself an impact entrepreneur. So when I started that coffee house, we became a founding B Corporation. If you're familiar with that, I actually have my little Arbonne hand cream sitting next to me. You've probably seen like the B logo.
Mhm.
So back in 2006, my business was a founding B Corporation. And so that's what I'm teaching at Drexel is how to become a B Corporation for these entrepreneurial students who are coming into the Impact Innovation Hub. And so I really want to focus more on that. Like I want to find those folks that are mission aligned and, where I can really help them tie that, impact and mission back to what they're doing. So that's kind of what I'm focused on this year.
How about you, Kimberly? What's because you have a lot going on. What have you set what is your main goal for this year?
Well, I don't think I have a main goal. I have for folks that know me, I'm a very high energy, multifaceted entrepreneur. So I can have a lot of different things going on, and moving those forward all at the same time. But one of the things that really lights me up that I enjoy, um, helping folks to accomplish, and that is really working with professional services women. To help them to develop their own voice, to reclaim their own confidence, and to advance their career path and by charting their own course. That may sound a little bit cliche, but I can tell you that the majority of women professionals, services providers, or women professionals in general do not do that. They do not set goals for themselves. They do not exercise the voice that they have to have greater impact and influence.
Okay. Now we said your goals. Now I want to know 2023, we were coming out of the pandemic. It was a different time. Everything was shifting. What was an obstacle, and it could be personal or it could be professional, that you overcame in 2023 that makes you very proud? Angela, what's an obstacle you came over? It could be business, it could be personal, or just something that you sit there and go, holy shit, I did this. This is good.
I mean, my business switched to, 100% virtual, back in 2020. So that was a challenge, sort of getting used to the Zoom calls. And I thought it was actually a nice change to not have to be out driving around and, wasting a lot of time traveling and stuff like that. But now it's like getting back out there. So living in a new place, I feel like I'm still sort of discovering Lambertville and, Central Bucks County and, this area around here. So, I think getting back out there, networking in person, that's something that I've been doing a lot more of these days.
Okay. How about you, Kimberly? What's an obstacle you came over in 2023?
I would have to say somewhat of a similar answer is before the pandemic, I was on planes traveling all over the country, keynoting conferences and association meetings, and having to transition to virtual and the webinars was really an adjustment for me because I have so much energy. It's just hard for me to sit to speak and have that conscious engagement when you see nothing but blacked out screens, so videos. So, but we developed a conscious engagement guide to help us to facilitate and to navigate the environment that it was, and so that was successful and helped us grow. And so now I'm more than delighted to be back in person, to be on site and doing the training development and the leadership that we do today.
It's funny you mentioned the black screen. Didn't you hate that when you're in a Zoom room and they didn't have a camera that worked? And you're like, just don't show up. Like it looks so stupid when it's just a black thing with your name. It's like, come on. So Jo, what's an obstacle you overcame in 2023?
So I would say the black screen happened to me probably closer to 2020, just when COVID occurred. And we had to immediately shift from being on site to start doing corporate education virtually. And one of my takeaways from that was it is a lot, you have to be a lot more animated. It takes a lot more energy to keep that vibration of that class high and create community when they're not all together. Right. So that was a challenge back then. But last year, I would say my biggest challenge, and I think my greatest lesson, was really around resilience. And I had quite a few challenges with I had an incident at my home where we lost half the home and it had to be rebuilt and we were displaced. And to be able to manage through that, I guess with grace, even though it didn't feel like it was with grace on the inside, it looked like it on the outside. What was a good lesson for me and a good reminder. So the language became, I can really do anything, from how the heck am I going to do this? Including tomorrow, I have 4 women and a U-Haul showing up to move me out of an apartment back into my house. So it's amazing, like, what your community can do. I was surprised at that. They did that without me knowing it. But that's just been, it was the challenge around resilience, being drained, being exhausted, and yet showing up 110%. And I'm sure Angela and Kimberly do the same thing. Like, we need to show up 100% for our clients, being there, being focused, being on the top of our game, while sometimes feeling on the inside like you're building the plane while you're flying it,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And it's just through grace that you can do that. So I'm trying to resonate at that higher what I learned.
Well,
Then I'm still not done and moving into a construction site.
so here's a question also, because you all are successful and you all work for yourselves. I mean, pretty much. Now, the thing is, when you work for yourself, it's not like, at the end of the day, at the end of the week, you're getting a paycheck. Okay. And we can all talk about our successes, because especially if you're on social media, it's all people do is they talk about how successful they are. But what do you do? And I'm sure this is going, maybe it doesn't happen now, but in the past, what happens when you wake up in the middle of the night, you work for yourself and you go, holy shit, what if all my clients disappear? What am I going to do? How do you deal with that? And we'll start with you, Kimberly, because you've a lot going on. Do you go through that now? Because you've been working for yourself for a long time, but do you ever go through it and go, what if all of a sudden everyone goes, we don't like Kimberly anymore, and they all leave? What does that go through your mind, or is that just me that I'm like a psycho?
What if you get canceled, Steve? What happens then?
Yeah, exactly. So, Kimberly, has that happened to you? And if so, how do you get yourself out of that funk?
Well, there's no one answer. I mean, one of the things that I think we probably all can concur on, that is the value of relationship building over our entire lives, our careers, our businesses. That is the currency in which we travel, is the relationships. And so, whether it's the clients themselves or the referral sources or the key influencers or our networking partners, I mean, it is a building process that we must attend to constantly. And that builds up a bank of currency over time. So I've been doing it for many, many years, and you can't, live and breathe on, putting all your eggs in one basket. Is that you have to spread those wings and, create that personal brand and the visibility, and then do the good work so your clients are, exceeding their expectations, and then a lot of faith and prayer.
Okay. How about you, Jo? Anytime you wake up and when you're like, they're all going to disappear, what am I going to do? Everyone's going to leave me. I mean, how do you deal with it? Because
I'm trying to Google it really quickly, and the quote isn't coming up, so I'm going to give you the botched version of the quote. I actually have it on my bulletin board in my office, my home office, but I can't get to it right now. It goes something like, the value of your business is not the number written on your paycheck, but it's the numbers in your Rolodex or your black book. Because clients will come and go. You'll have a job. You might have a high job, but a high paying job. But if you lose that job or you lose that client, the value is really what Kimberly said, in those rich relationships of who to reach out to, right? What is your next resource? You know, and also, you know, very much a challenge for people who are self-employed, because a lot of times as self-employed individuals, we might get extraordinarily large jobs, and then we're in there with our team of 10 doing that job. But at that time, you're not necessarily doing the marketing for the next job. I don't know if that's happened to you ladies, but especially if you're a passion-driven entrepreneur, when I work with a client, like, their success is my success. I am not successful unless they've hit their target. So you actually become part of their team, part of their organization. So it's really important, and it's just with age and with, being in business longer, that I've learned to adapt for that. But starting out, it was like, wow, I got this client, I'm there for 10 hours, they're making this much, but you're not getting the next one and the next one. So that's part of being an entrepreneur that sells a service and not a product.
Okay. How about you, Angela?
Yeah.
Because you're newer in this.
I started my consulting business in 2016. Before I would say my anxiety still lies in the restaurant world. Like, my dreams are like, oh my gosh, I can't get through the weeds. I can't find the milk to make the latte to, get to the next person, for sure. But yeah, I think, like, for me, a lot of it is income diversification. So like I said, I teach at Drexel. I also have a class called Restaurant Startup 101 that I teach through a community group called LA 21. It's the Lancaster Avenue Business Development Corporation in West Philadelphia. And then I teach a restaurant best practices course at the Community College of Philadelphia. And then I coach through their Power Up program as well. And so I am just meeting a ton of different people all the time, like, in terms of getting new clients, and then focusing on those relationships and repeat business. I mean, I work with startups, and those tend to be engagements that are just, through the startup process, but I stay in touch with them. How's everything going? Like, how's your marketing program? What about staffing? That's like, where a lot of people get tripped up, or when they're ready to move on to their second location, getting them set up for that. So, and that's usually a management coaching engagement where I will train their managers on how to take care of things, delegate, so that they can actually focus on the business, focus on growing the business. So yeah, it's like, this multi-pronged approach of, both income strategies and relationship building. So
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Looking at your multiple streams is, that's a great point. But I would also say, Angela, that your probably best new business referral, like mine, is from the client that you knocked it out of the park with, right? Like, my best referral is always a client referral or an alumni from one of our programs that refers someone in.
Yes.
Hey,
Definitely.
so
Yeah, it's a hard direct sell. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Angela, you said you teach, and I know, both of you are mentor somewhat, you mentor younger people. Was there a mentor or someone who was who was very important in your life in developing who you are? Like, I always tell the story. I had an English teacher named Dr. Dwyer, and he had the gray beatnik haircut, and he wore white turtlenecks, and he had us write a how-to paper, and I wrote how to give a wedgie. and it was off the wall, and but he said, this is very funny. And that got me into the path of comedy that I did, because I went, oh, wow, this guy believed in me. I didn't know that was what it would be the start of. But who's someone, Jo, who's someone who's played an important part in your life that you sit there and you're really thankful that you met them?
So I've had so many mentors. I believe that each person that crosses our path, we have something to learn from. Even the people that we don't like when they're crossing our path, right? Sometimes our biggest challenges can be our greatest teachers. And as they say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So when you ask the question, I will tell you the person who came to mind. And it's taken me back, Cooper. But it was Sister Marie Phillip at Immaculata University. I went to an all-girls, back in the day, all-girls university. And she was my economics teacher and also my RA. So we had 2 nuns living at each end of the hallway during that time period. And there are so many times through my life that I think of her. I don't know where she is now. I kept in touch with her for a while. And you can't really tell their age when they're in full habit, But she used to borrow my Camaro and take the T-tops off, I'll tell you that, and drive down the road with the hat. Made her like extra cool. I would say she was my first and helped me to anchor to, I would say, my internal power. And there have been others along the way, but when you ask the question, it's funny because there are so many people in my recent 10 years that I could say that helped me when I didn't know how or what to do. And I needed a mentor, not a coach or a consultant. But so I want to give her homage. And Sister Marie Phillip from Immaculata University was my first mentor.
Okay. How about you, Kimberly?
She also caught me coming in plenty of times after midnight when they locked the doors. Okay. So we had a little something going. All right. There was some discipline in there too, but truly a mentor.
How about you, Kim?
Maybe she'll watch this and hear me saying that. Wouldn't that be crazy?
So like Jo, I think, as we move along the trajectory of our lives and our professional journeys, people come in and out like threads to a tapestry. And as she said, when the student is ready, the teacher
Coaching metaphor, Kimberly.
And so there's been many people over the course of my life and over the course of my career. But I would have to say one of those folks, his name's Tom Desch. And he literally changed the trajectory of my life, my entire life, by asking a simple question. When I was struggling, when I was a young college student, I had started in a degree program that I was not suited for, but being the high achiever, hard pushing person that I've been all my life, but very self-motivated, high energy, it wasn't going well for me. And he asked me the question, had I considered changing majors? Because at that point I had always been a writer. I'd always been a public speaker, and even from the earliest days, but it had never dawned on me that I could actually leverage those natural talents and abilities into a career or into a curriculum for college. And so when he asked me that question, it just gave me pause for thought and had huge light bulb moments. And I went back and revisited my choice, and did in fact change my major and have worked in the field of study. Changed from a business major to a liberal arts, communications, marketing, management, PR degree, and have worked in that since, since the 80s.
Okay. How about you, Angela?
Sure. So I would have to agree with Jo. Like, there's just so many people over, different parts of my life that I think were really influential. But very early on, I would say my grandmother. I spent a lot of time with her when I was younger. My parents got divorced when I was really young, and we moved in with her for a couple of years before my mother remarried. And we spent a lot of time together. I was very shy. So she really encouraged me to get out of my shell and, make friends and, put me in everything. I mean, whether it's arts and crafts classes, swimming classes, summer camps, all that kind of stuff. Like I never wanted to go. And, it really helped me, become more outgoing. But she also encouraged me to be independent and resourceful. And I would say even entrepreneurial. Like I remember being 4 years old and cutting up the Sunday comic and getting my red wagon and walking around the neighborhood trying to sell the comics for 25 cents a piece. And I mean, some people thought it was cute. Some people were like, yeah, I already got the paper. They didn't get it. But so yeah, she's great. And she actually just passed away a few weeks ago.
I'm sorry about that. Here's a question, because I have an all-female panel, and it is 2024, and times should have changed. But I go to events and I still see what in my demographic, I'm the demographic of a creepy old guy. Okay. And we're not going to lie. You should run into that. And there's still a bias, I think, sometimes. Some people who are old-fashioned don't look at women business owners as business owners. And it's sad to say that in this day and age. And I'm going to start with Kimberly, because I talked to Kimberly. Kimberly has a very strong opinion about this. What do we do about that? How do we change? Because it's still out there. And do you notice it at all? The weird two-way street.
That's a great question, Cooper. I was just at a Pyramid Club event the other night, and was talking to some younger male entrepreneur business owners about this very topic, about how is it in this day and age that women are still lagging behind as much as they are. Like it's unfathomable to those folks. I would say from 35 years and younger, that women are still, not treated well as well, are not compensated as well, are not, promoted as quickly or as highly as men are in the day. I've been teaching this, women professionals for many years on how to make sure that their voices are heard and to help take their control of their career path. But I think as importantly, the men need to be in the room as the allies to advocate and to understand and speak up, because there's no question, especially in various industry sectors, that there are more women professionals in some sectors. I would say even like in businesses, than there are males. And so graduating classes of women lawyers are 57%, but they only represent like 5 to 7% of leadership. Like that is a so skewed statistic, but that's where we are. And so as women galvanize and we see the organizations, have the women's leadership initiatives and all, that's great, and to empower the women, but we're not going to get there without the male support.
Okay. How about you, Angela? Do you see it? I mean, what is your take on this? Because I still see it. It cracks me up. And I was at an event and someone's like, "Oh, she's hot." Like, what? I'm like, no, that's just wrong. This is business. This isn't. You're not at a nightclub. I mean,
Right.
so I mean, what do you see out
Yeah, I mean, I think the restaurant industry too is very male dominated. I think sometimes it's hard to, depending on who I'm talking to maybe be taken seriously. I think that can also be very aligned with different cultures, because we do have a lot of ethnic restaurants, especially independent restaurants in the country. So I don't let it bother me for sure. It's their loss. Like if you don't want to work with me because I'm a woman, yeah, that's your loss. But I think trying to coach with other women, right? Like coaching other women entrepreneurs is definitely where I like to see my business, making an impact. So just seeing them be successful is just, such a joy. So, but I'm just so glad I'm not in corporate America anymore. I was there for a very short period of time, and I really enjoy working for myself, and for the most part, not having to deal with that kind of stuff.
Okay. How about you, Joe?
I definitely bump into it. I have clients that bump into it. And one of the strategies is definitely to align with men that support women, right? As well as finding support or aligning with women that support other women. Us girls all know the mean girls, the girls that don't want to help you, that will trip you in the hallway, like everything, sabotage you. So you have to find the right gals who like gals. I think if I'm going to answer the question honestly, for me, it's tough to say. But I think age and experience, just kind of and not really caring anymore, gives you a little bit more acumen, because we've seen it, we've seen them do it. And I'm sure the ladies will agree, we kind of come up with our own nuances of how to, smack them in the face gracefully. So, it's really about keeping your power as individuals, whether you're a man or a woman. Really looking at, why is your button being pushed in this situation, or why is their button being pushed, and how can you diffuse that through building a really healthy conversation with them? And I think that's just, I don't know that that's something that you necessarily learn in college or grad school. I think that's just experience gives you that gift. I also think that we get better at noticing that energy before it enters the room. In a non-judgmental way. I think our intuition gets stronger, so we kind of anticipate how are we going to manage this type of personality. Would you gals agree?
Definitely.
Like the three of us are not going to walk away from it and go hide under a chair. I'll tell you. I mean, especially I know Kimberly. She's going to call me and be like, "Get the car in the black outfit. We're going over."
There you go. That's what this show's all about. Getting, going over.
And the sunglasses, we're going over, right?
I'll stay on your guys' good side. Stay on your good side.
And Angela, you can come along too, of course.
Thank
But
you.
Kimberly is a very powerful women's advocate, and I've seen her speak on this, and was very much so. Not that I'm, don't want to. Very much operated in a male dominant field, probably the first 20 years in your career, right?
Oh,
And so just maintaining who she is and what she does in that industry, she only has gained traction.
Right. Well, good. Now, here's a question. You mentioned age and experience, and we all have age and experience.
We're smarter. The bottom line is, Steve, we're just smarter than boys.
Oh, my wife tells me all the time. Whenever we're out, there'll be like a little 5-year-old running around getting into shit. She's like, "Yep, little boy."
I will point out, why is the question never asked on a man's panel about navigating working with women?
How do you know? Have you watched my show?
I don't know. No, I don't know. I'm just guessing.
There you go. Watch some shows and you'll find out.
I love that. Good for you.
Here's a question. We mentioned age and experience, and it changes to our lives, the meaning of success. So at this point in your life, Angela, we'll start with you. What is success to you? Everyone has what I wanted what I thought was successful at 23 is not the same to me now. I can
totally different.
Success is just owning a home, have a car, eat, just being happy, have money in the bank. I mean, I live, from the restaurant world, you live check for check. I live paycheck to paycheck forever, and being in Hollywood. But no, what's success to you now, Angela?
Yeah, I think like coming from the restaurant world, I mean, it was just a lot of chaos. I mean, controlled chaos. I got to a point where it was, I really enjoyed it. I liked that, every day was different. I got to the point where I was able to empower my managers and I was very hands off. It took a long time to get there. Right. So that was like sort of what I was aiming for, what my, success was then, right, was being more hands off owner. And now I think I've really dialed in on a couple things in my life. Comfort and joy. Like that is really what I want out of life now, because I feel like I went through a pretty harrowing experience in the restaurant industry for a number of reasons. But one was mainly like a lawsuit from a landlord that was just absolutely horrible and went on for like 5 years or so. And now it's, just coming out of that and just being in a place where I don't really feel that threat. I don't have those types of negative relationships. I love my husband and my family life. I love where I live. I enjoy, being in control of my day and my time for the most part, right? Like I set my own schedule. I've always appreciated that. But in the restaurant industry, even though I was working for myself, most days got derailed. The store's on fire, we got robbed, somebody didn't show up, like whatever it was, there was something that would just, and then you're like off in that direction. So yeah, I feel like my life is just calmer now, and I'm reaching my personal financial goals. I feel comfort. I feel freedom.
Okay. How about you, Kimberly? What's success for you? Because you're very successful. I mean, you're going to Tavistock for Easter, so we know you're successful. So, I mean, hell, that's success. But no, so what's success to you now in your life?
I think along the professional journey trajectory, it has gone for me of rising up the ladder. I topped out in my positions in my career focus and area. Started business that's been successful as far as meeting financial goals. For me, it's impact. Now I'm to a place that I want to have a lasting impact, not only on our clients, but also like this event that I went to the other night, I was speaking of earlier at the Pyramid Club. There were some, I think, either St. Joe or Temple young lady students there, young women students there, which I thought was so incredibly courageous for them to show up in a group of 50 strangers. I think they knew one person, to get a head start on their own, personal brand development. And so, I certainly applaud that. And there's nothing that I really love and lights me up is to mentor younger women professionals, so they can kind of bypass some of the derailing that I experienced. Also, as Jo had mentioned, in the severely, I have to say, white male dominated industry that I've traversed over very many years. A lot of tears, a lot of anxiety and stress. It doesn't need to be that way if you have the right toolkit. And so that's something that really brings me a lot of joy.
Okay. How about you? What's success to you, Jo?
So I always must say first that my greatest accomplishment is my daughter, Victoria. I put a lot into her. She's 24 now. And she teases me when I say, she's fully cooked, but she isn't fully cooked, but she's 24, she's thriving, and genuinely feel like she is my greatest accomplishment. Success for me, there's been a conversation that we've been having lately, and I'm just meeting Angela for the first time today and hope to get to know her better. And I feel like I keep referencing Kimberly, but Kimberly has been in some of these conversations that we've been having recently. So I want to say that I would judge my success today by the people that I surround myself with, that have the same morals, the same values, the same inspirations, the same passion to give back and to help others. And I feel like it's in this decade of my life that I've really connected or found those people. You know, we have different friends that come and go in our life, and we can be so close with them, and it's the ones, sometimes it's the new friends that you don't have to make excuses for, you know, that just show up in genuine, pure love, you know. So because with that, anything is possible.
Okay. Now I want to get to networking. I know you, Joe, from networking. I know Angela from networking. I met Kimberly from networking. I think it's just, that's what we do now. You know, and that people are good networkers. Now, Kimberly, what makes you a good networker? What do you think when someone says, hey, you know, you got to meet this Kimberly. She's a really good networker. What makes you a good networker?
You know, that's like an interesting question, because I actually teach networking skills and have for a long time. But what I see is, you know, we can mirror what we see and what doesn't work. And what I think is innate from my high school English class when I was assigned to announce the announcements to the classroom. So I was standing in front of a group of 30 people and read announcements every day. It got me comfortable in public spaces and public speaking. But the networking is truly, truly adapting. If you don't have that as part of your personality or your value set, the go-giver philosophy. It truly is. Either it's part of who you are, and I was reared, raised to be in service to others. That is part of who I am. And so it just extends not only from my own personal life, my deep faith life, but to my professional life. And so when I meet, and I was in a crowd of, 50 people the other night for the first time, I think I knew maybe 2 people, is truly having a genuine, authentic interest in other people and how you could be a resource or a connector or somehow to support them. And because I believe the sowing and reaping principle is always in play. And so why obviously, you can't stay in business if you don't have referrals in the network and that whole thing. But when you truly have your sights on helping others and being in service to others, that will come back to you multiple fold.
Okay. How about you, Joe? What makes you a good networker?
So I don't really consider myself a networker. I consider myself a relationship builder. To me, I tend to shy away from what I consider to be business card exchanges. I mean, there's certain things that you have to go to. It's part of your brand. You're in the community. But it's really the relationships, the strong relationships that you build that often happen outside of that networking room that creates a strong business. So especially for me, I am a B2B business. I'm not a B2C business. So it's very rare that I would necessarily go to something where my ideal client is, right? So I just look at it as an opportunity to, as Kimberly said, meet new people, see what relationships resonate with me, professional relationships and personal, right? And see what develops from there. Because that sort of takes you back to, when a client or a colleague really knows you and what you do, they can speak about your business as though you're doing it yourself, right? And they can bring all that integrity and value along with them in the conversation. And if they themselves stand for that in their brands, that's kind of like where the magic happens, right? So I know we have to say networking, but I can't tell you how many business cards that I have thrown in a shoebox.
No, if a business card is not the normal size, I toss it. I don't want any little square.
But
I don't want the ones that open, because then they open and all your other business cards fall off.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm like,
mean,
stop with the
I've tried
square.
some different things, but most of the time they're in the shoebox, and then I'm going to look, it's embarrassed, but pure vulnerability, right? I still have not, I keep saying I've scanned some of them into, a cam card, but really it's the ones where you're like, like, let me take these two cards out and put it in I feel a connection with this person.
Okay. And I
Secondly,
met
of your
I met
pocketbook.
Joe. When I met you, it was Mid was hosting skeet shooting, and I saw Jo Colontonio skeet shooting. I didn't skeet. I was like, I'm not doing it, but she was skeet shooting. Angela, what makes you a good network?
And they were making fun of me because I didn't know when I had heels on. Remember?
You didn't get the memo?
Angela, what makes you a good network?
It was all boys, and I showed up.
Exactly. So Angela, what makes you a good network?
Yeah, this is a good question because I don't know that I am a great networker. Or at least I sort of struggle with the balance there because I don't it is about relationship building. What Jo said, I think my best referrals are from the people, my network, that people that I've developed relationships with, in addition to clients, but probably more so those folks that I've developed relationships with who really understand what I do. So it's meeting the right people, being selective about events. I mean, there's like a million events every week, right? And you can't possibly go to all of them. So that's where I feel like I feel like I struggle. But being responsive to people, the people that you meet, making thoughtful connections, being, a resource to them. And then, developing those relationships and staying on top of them. Which, like I said, I don't know that I'm great at it. I wish I were better, and I strive to be better. And it does remind me that there are some people I need to follow up with from an event earlier this week. So
there you go.
So
Here's a question. Here's a question. Oh, go ahead.
Steve, may I just share something with you to give you some insights from the three women on this call? We are all in the chat privately, talking with each other. I'm getting together with Angela. Kimberly just said, you're moving in your house. So we're even connecting and having a deeper relationship.
Well, that's I
we've connected on LinkedIn already. Yeah.
I like to hear that though. That's why I do this. Because I love insights from people, and when they can connect, it's a great thing. Well, here's a question though. I'm going to ask you, and I started this a few months ago. This question, and I started because I don't read business books. I have no interest in them. But I know there's fascinating books. People have said so many, books about it could be business. And if you don't read business books, just say, I don't read business books. But is there a business book that has meant a lot to you? And Angela, is there a certain business book that, one that's really meant a lot to you?
So there's a book that I recommend all the time to my clients called The E-Myth. Has anybody read that? It's great. I mean, it's basic, but it really does, especially with a lot of the folks that I work with, like in restaurants, like, going from the technician or like the chef or, the baker to being the business owner and like what that distinction is and sort of how you get there. So I do recommend that book all the time.
Okay. How about you, Kimberly?
I am a voracious book reader. And the reason I'm looking to the side is because I have a whole big bookcase over to my right. And one of the books that really resonated with me, it's not necessarily for business, but it certainly can be applied to business. And that is to embrace your unique magnificence. Because without starting first with the confidence and how we have our own self-identity and how we want to show up with our power and our value, then there's no business technique that's going to work for us.
Okay. How about you, Jo? Is there a book that sticks out to you? Is there a book that you read in Bishop Eustace? No. Is there a book that sticks out to you?
The Bible,
Yeah.
and then the nuns had read it to me at a mental. So when you said two business books, the first two that came to mind were one is the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, which is just a wonderful book for anyone at any time. I use that a lot when I'm working with leaders and executives. the one that would be a business book per se is Susan Scott's book, Fierce Conversations. It has some great takeaways, and I use that book a lot when I'm doing corporate development as well. You know,
Okay.
what is fierce conversation, and trying to make every conversation you have fierce. And she goes into what that takes. And yeah, it's probably one of my faves.
Okay. Well, here's the final question, and I'm looking forward to this because you all teach or you all mentor. Okay, you all are out there. You're helping. And what would your advice be if someone comes up to you? They can be getting out of college, they can be getting out of high school, they could be getting out of trade school, they could be in a career change. Okay, and they just don't know. Like they sit there, they come to you and they go, "What's the key, man? What's the key to your success? What do I do to do well?" What's the advice you give them, Angela?
I would say, I mean, they need to get different experiences, like go out there and learn, like just learn everything you possibly can. If you're done, if you feel like you've learned everything you can from the job you're at, like move on and just keep learning. And that's where opportunities will come. That's where you're going to meet people. That's really where you're going to find that trajectory. But you also just have to put the effort in. You can't just show up, clock in, clock out. You've got to, if people are going to recommend you or want to do business with you, you've really got to have a lot of pride in your work.
Okay, how about you, Joe? What advice do you give?
I would say start where you are, use what you have, and because an education is something that no one can take from you, wherever that education may have come from. Build non-traditional relationships,
Okay.
business relationships, not the ordinary. There's an
How about you, Kim?
opportunity and a possibility with every person that crosses your path. It's just about having that conversation with them.
All right. And how about you, Kimberly? What advice would you give?
I would absolutely share and recommend wherever this young person or the person is to be curious and open, because that's where all the lessons are. Be curious about the person sitting next to you. Be curious about a job description that you may or may not think that you're 100% qualified for. That's a trap that women fall into, that we don't apply for positions unless we think that we meet 100% of the criteria, as opposed to men who might only they apply for positions that they may only be 50 to 60% qualified for. So have some, if you don't have the moxie, get outside your comfort zone. That's where you learn and grow.
All right, well, this was great. Now, how can people get in touch with you and find out how to do business with you, Angela?
Through my website, angelavendetti.com.
Okay. How about you, Joe?
Website, ignitebusinesspartners.com.
And Kimberly, you can give all three of your websites because I know you have three.
Yeah, I have three. Literally, if you key in Kimberly Rice on LinkedIn, you'll find me to just short circuit the process. But it's Kimberly at KLAmarketing.net is the primary website that we maintain. But yeah, so you just Google my name. I'm out there.
So people, go check these, check them all out. They have good insight. They have good wisdom. You can go to YouTube and look at past episodes of the Coop Tank. Just search the Coop Tank. Also, if you want to sponsor an episode, reach out to me, because the guests on my show are business leaders. And a lot of people that watch this show are business leaders. And if you own a company, wouldn't you want your name out to other business leaders? You can also go to my other website, coopertalk.net. That's my entertainment website. I've done over 1,000 interviews. Some great ones coming up. Motivational speaker Jason Aldean's drummer Rich Redmond is a great friend of mine. He's always a good interview. So go to that. You can email me, cooptank@yahoo.com. And that's about it. I'm going to thank Jo Colontonio, who will produce this episode. I'm not SuiteRecording, but go to their website, Suite, SUITE recording.com. I'm Steve Cooper, and I will talk to you all next week.